Jared Longoria, and this is part 2 of our property tax levy load discussion. The first video was about just the conceptual nature of property taxes and what we're doing with the levy load. This video will go into the specifics of the different work papers and support that you'll be obtaining and working through. So I'm going to share my screen. And what you'll see, well, let's navigate to where the levy load folder from scratch. So you'll go to the Y drive, your current fiscal year, you'll go to property taxes and the levy load. You have a trash folder, and then below that you have a number of different folders that I'm highlighting, as well as this ordinance. These are support documents. And so all of the support in these folders that you'll obtain, as well as the council ordinance that you'll obtain, all flow into this fiscal year 23 property tax levy load Excel workbook. This is your hub. Again, it's where you synthesize your support, and it's where you create your final deliverables. And I'll walk through that a little bit real quick. Some of those deliverables end up in this folder here. For some of the deliverables, you'll be sending this workbook just in its completed form to a variety of people. As well, information in this workbook flows out. I'm going to go back a step in the tree, and you'll have a product from the workbook that goes into this journal entries folder, namely the fiscal year 23 levy load journal entry. In this journal entry support for Clackamas and Washington, you'll get information from the levy load workbook that helps you fill out an allocation workbook. And as well, information in the levy load workbook will flow into this SAP turnover Microsoft Access database. And those allocation workbooks in this SAP turnover database have to do with the tax turnovers that we'll get as a city from the counties that we need to record. So let's go back into the levy load folder. So this is like all our support, and this is our primary workbook. Below that, you really have the place you'll want to start. You're going to want to start at the very bottom at the property taxes levy load process Word file. I'm going to open it up. At the top, you have a little blurb about the levy load process. Below that, you have all of the different reports and information that you're going to need to obtain in the levy load process. And it's going to have links to the websites where you can find the information, as well as links to email threads that you can continue in the next year as you ask for support for the levy load workbook. Below the support area, you have a procedure area that's going to walk you through everything you need to do: obtaining reports, inquiring of various people for needed information, updating workbooks, as well as later on sending bill to finish summary tab, things of that nature. So this, again, is the place to start. Now, the information that's in this Word file in narrative form is in list form here in the open item list levy load. And I'll open this up. And this is a place that lists out all of the different procedures as a checklist. And so at the beginning of a new year, you can copy that tab, rename it to your new fiscal year. And in this, you have your items column, and then you have your status. And these are drop downs. You can change it to not started. You can copy all of that. And so now you have your list of items to work on. And so you have 4 different categories of items. You have things to obtain, questions to answer, items to send, work papers to fill out. So for example, this first item is obtain Multnomah County reports. When you start doing that, you can change this to in progress. When you complete it, you can say complete. You have a link to where you can find the reports. And in the notes, you can kind of say, oh, this is when I last checked, or this is an issue I ran into. If you run into an issue in this process that deserves a new item, then just, go to the bottom and add a new row for a new item and name it appropriately. So you have work papers to update again, you have items to send out, and you have questions to ask each year. What funds are closing? Are there any new funds? And this is, of course, related to property taxes, not just in general, but are there any funds, say, uh, we have local option levies for parks and for children's. And what if those levies might end in an upcoming year, and therefore you might need to close a local option fund. I mean, that's less likely you wouldn't close the fund, but maybe it's not going to need an allocation anymore. Similarly with um, urban renewal districts we have debt service funds for urban renewal, and so those do close once the debt's paid off. And so if that's closed, we want to make sure we're not allocating any of the property tax revenue to those funds. So those are questions you want to work through. Some of these questions might have already been answered in prior years and don't need to repeat, and you can, of course, delete those. So this is a great hub for you, and it's a place where supervisors or people reviewing your work can come and check in on your progress. Okay, and again, you can roll it forward from year to year. Before we jump into the property tax levy load, just within some of these support folders, say this urban renewal tax distribution, there are also little notes to you about folder contents. And it tells you, the debt management division provides the workbook in this folder, this main workbook, and things like that. So there are breadcrumbs spread throughout the folders that help you find your way along the levy load process. And so let's now look at the main workbook, the property tax levy load workbook. Now, these workbooks and the support files all have procedures written out on them and hopefully are easy to follow in and of themselves, right? But I want to talk about the overall structure of this workbook so you know where to start. This levy summary tab is a very important tab. It's where all of the support is flowing. All the support flows into this tab. And so you have ordinance, Multnomah, Clack, Washington County reports, local option distribution information, urban rural distribution, and stopping there, all those tabs, all those sheets flow into the levy summary. So if columns A through F have to do with the taxes imposed for the year, which is what you use to determine your property tax receivable and deferred revenue. And that information, is linked to the Washington County report for this Washington County column. The Clackamas County is linked to CLACCO. For local option levies, not only is it linked to CLACCO, but it's linked to the local option tab. So the tabs are filling these in. And when you see black text, that is linked or a formula. As you can see, this is a formula too. And if you see blue text, I'm going to go to one of the support tabs. Blue text is hard keyed, meaning you typed it in yourself. You can see up here, it's just a raw number. Whereas the black one text is linked to different places. And when you add support, like say in these support tabs, you're bringing in support from the support folders, and you're going to want to link to the support folders and link to the files. Think like an auditor, leave a great audit trail, and this is maybe what you're hard keying the information based on and things like that. Now back to this levy summary tab. A lot of information flowing into it, and information also flows out of this tab. So levy summary tab, the taxes imposed, that all flows into the journal entry worksheet. So you can see this amount column is flowing from the levy summary tab. We're rounding it, checking it, and then we have a mass upload journal entry template. And you can see we have our receivable accounts for various funds. We have our deferred revenue. So we're booking the levy load by fund, by account. And when you put it in SAP, you can mark it here. And we mentioned this earlier, but if you go back to the journal entries tab, you can see that you copy that tab as a separate workbook here. Now, there's one other last few things in the levy summary tab. It's not just creating the journal entry, but we're also creating these distribution ratios that help us make sense of tax turnovers that come in from the counties throughout the year. They help us distribute those tax turnovers among the appropriate funds. And so, because the information doesn't come to us perfectly detailed from the county, so we have to create these rates to make sure we allocate things appropriately. And so this information, like these urban renewal rates, they flow into the SAP Turnover Access database. Furthermore, on these imposed taxes totals for like different counties, so this is the permanent rate totals for the counties, local option totals, your bond levy totals, those actually flow into these other additional allocation rate workbooks. There's a Clackamas and a Washington County one. So say Washington County, this is the allocation workbook. And these subtotals flow here into the imposed taxes allocation rate log. You can see you hard code by that blue text. You hard code those totals in. You create a rate from it. That rate flows over here to our imposed tax allocation rate kind of tables. And so each year you add in a new row. This is the fiscal year 23 tax levy, and you have your past tax levies. Those just roll forward each year. But anyway, you're bringing in the information from the levy load workbook here. It helps you create your rates, which when you get in money during the year for tax receipts, it will be the way that you divide it appropriately among different levies. So that's the overview. And again, the details are all there in the workbooks, in the support. Like even if I open this ordinance here, you're seeing the process. You're seeing what information is pertinent to the levy load workbook and to levy workbook, local option distribution. So think like an auditor, show your audit trail. Where is it coming from? Where is it going? Spell it out, update links, update the support, be very thorough so that the person coming in after you can pick up right where you left off. An auditor could see exactly what we did because these are material balances. This is for our governmental funds. This is our revenue source for the most part, property taxes. So it's a big deal. Take it seriously, and thanks for going through it with me. All right.